So Congress has now passed and President Biden has signed into law the American Rescue Plan, which is the third major stimulus package since the pandemic began. And this one has a price tag of $1.9 trillion. And although they haven't come out and said it, most experts believe that barring a major setback with COVID cases, that this will be the last stimulus package relative to the pandemic. So are stimulus checks included? Why, yes, they are. But the qualification rules have changed. In fact, 12 million people that got a stimulus check last time will not be getting a stimulus check this time. So how will it affect you? Well, you're about to find out. I'm Joshua Roberts, attorney at law, and you are watching Lawyer Up. Today, we are going to take a look at the America Rescue Plan that's recently been passed by Congress and signed into law by President Biden. Now, to start with, we're going to take a brief look at major stimulus packages over the past year. We're going to start by looking at the CARES Act, and that was from March of 2020. Then we're going to go to the summer of 2020 when we had some executive orders from President Trump. We're going to look at the second stimulus package from December of 2020. And then, of course, we're going to look at the American Rescue Plan and all of the components of what has just been passed into law. And specifically, we're going to look at those third stimulus checks. So if you enjoy the episode, I'd ask you to hit that like button. If you got something to say, you got a comment, put it in the comment section below. If you'd like to learn more about current events or legal topics, then I would invite you to subscribe to the channel. And if you've got friends that would enjoy this type of content, I would ask that you share me on social media. Last but not least, we come to you today from the podcast studio of Grayson Roberts. If you haven't checked out any of his channels, I would encourage you to do so, and we thank him for letting us use his studio. So let's start with a review briefly of the major stimulus packages over the past year. Now, we all know about the CARES Act. That was from March of 2020, and that was a $3 trillion stimulus package. Now, the major components included the airline bailouts. Remember, nobody was going anywhere, so we had to bail out the airlines. The Paycheck Protection Program, which was forgivable small loans, or forgivable loans for small businesses, I should say. We had the $600 per week federal supplement to state unemployment benefits. So people who are unemployed would qualify for their state benefit amount. And then on top of that, there was a supplement from the federal government at $600 per week under the CARES Act. There was a moratorium on foreclosures, evictions, and student loan payments. And there was also money poured in at that time into vaccine research and the PPEs, the personal protective equipment. And of course, what everybody was excited about were these stimulus checks. Those were for qualifying adults who received a $1,200 check per individual, $2,400 for a married couple. In addition, people received $500 per child that they had that was under the age of 17. And these benefits went to people who made $75,000 or less. And then there was a phased out benefit for individuals making between $75,000 and $100,000. And of course, those values double if you're married. So that would be $150,000 for a married couple, up to $200,000. And after that, there were no benefits, no stimulus checks whatsoever. So over the summer of 2020, then we had some executive orders. And essentially what they did was they extended the federal unemployment supplement benefit, but they reduced it to $400 per week. They also continued the moratorium on foreclosures, evictions, and student loan payments. That's what the executive orders did. In December, we had another stimulus package. This one was $900 billion, so we're about $1 trillion for the second stimulus package. Again, it extended the federal unemployment supplement. Now it's down to $300 per week on top of state benefits. Again, further extended the moratorium on foreclosures, evictions, and student loan payments. It provided a second draw under the PPP program, the Paycheck Protection Program. For qualifying small businesses, they could take out a second forgivable loan. There was $82 billion that was poured into education to assist schools to reimburse the costs of educating both seated and virtual students during the pandemic. And of course, last but not least, we had our second stimulus checks. These were for qualifying adults who received $600 per person and $600 for each child that was under the age of 17. Again, these benefits were for people that made full benefits, $75,000 and below, and you got some check, some amount, up to an individual making $100,000 and or a married couple making $200,000. So that brings us to the Biden plan, the American Rescue Plan, or the Rescue America Plan, however you want to say it, and its major components, and we're going to look at each one. So again, this plan once again extends the federal unemployment supplement. The amount stays at $300 per week, and that runs through August of 2021. Now, the original House bill that was in the House of Representatives, they had $400 a week, but the Senate scaled it back. And so ultimately, the bill that went to the president had the scaled back $300 a week amount. The new plan also continues the moratorium on foreclosures, evictions, and student loan payments through the summer. Now, $45 billion was set aside for rental, mortgage, and utility assistance to help individuals and families who lost jobs and income due to the pandemic. And this is really important because when this moratorium is over, when people can go back to evicting people from their rental property, when mortgage companies can go back to foreclosing for non-payment, we're going to see a flood of these cases. So this $45 billion is set aside to hopefully offset and help some of these people out that would otherwise be in a very difficult situation once the moratorium is lifted. Now, the stimulus package also included an increase in food stamp benefits and the WIC program benefits. That's Women, Infants, and Children. That program is going to see increased benefits. There was money set aside for grants for child care providers to help with rent, utilities, and payroll costs during the pandemic. There is an increase to the child tax credit as well as the earned income credit. And these are to benefit low to moderately low income families who will qualify for this credit, and it's refundable, so they can get a tax refund with these values and these numbers with both of those credits. There were measures that were passed to increase federal subsidies to help health insurance costs, as well as caps put on to stop the large increase in the costs of coverage. Now, this is under the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. So these caps as to the amount that your premiums can go up and also amounts to help subsidies, that applies to the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare, not to just health insurance in general. There was money set aside in this new act for mental health and substance abuse services, as well as several billion that has been targeted specifically for veteran health care benefits, and that's a positive for veterans everywhere. There's also a measure that was included to reinstate the paid sick and family leave benefit, giving workers up to 14 weeks of paid leave. And this is for people who are sick or they're quarantining or they are caring for children whose schools still are not open due to the pandemic. Under this program, the federal government would actually reimburse the employers who provide those benefits for qualified leave individuals. There was $15 billion that was set aside for a new small business grant program. Now, this is not the PPP program. This is something totally different. I've looked for details. The details are very vague. So I'm curious as to what this money is going to be targeted towards, but we'll have to stay tuned to see how this new small business grant program will work. There was $350 billion set aside for state and local governments to help them offset the increased costs of operations in dealing with the pandemic. $130 billion was set aside for schools, and this is to help increase testing and vaccine distribution and focusing on reopening all public schools safely. $14 billion was set aside for a national vaccination program and to launch community vaccination centers all around the United States. There was money to specifically target long-term care facilities to make sure all of those people are vaccinated. And last but not least, of course, is the third round of stimulus checks. That's what everybody's interested in. The government is issuing another round of stimulus checks, and that's $1,400 per individual who qualify. Now, the qualifications have changed. Now, those making $75,000 or less will still get the full benefit. That's the same as before. And for a married couple, that's $150,000 a year. If you make that or less, you're going to get the full benefit of the $1,400. However, before, between $75,000 and $100,000, there was a phased out benefit where if you made more than $100,000 for an individual, you got nothing. Well, now that nothing is $80,000. So for people that make between $80,000 and $100,000, they will get nothing this time around. And that is, they estimate, about 12 million people. The 12 million people got a stimulus check in December and won't get one this time around. So that's a big deal. And for those who do qualify, they will also receive $1,400 per dependent. Now, notice I didn't say child. Now you get it regardless of whether they're your child. If they are a dependent and you can claim them on your tax return, then you get $1,400 ahead for each one of those dependents. So for those who qualify, this is a big benefit, probably the biggest stimulus check benefit of any of the rounds. So it's a big, big deal. Now, everybody says, well, when are they going to issue these checks? And they have said that these direct deposits will start as early as next week. So you can expect to be paid your stimulus money if you qualify in very short order. And last but not least, people asking this question is, so what is not included in this package that we thought might be? Well, it's the minimum wage increase. There was an appetite amongst Democrats to step up the minimum wage at the national level to $15 per hour. And that would be big, big news, because that would increase the minimum wage in all 50 states. It would over double it in 19 of the states. So this step up to $15 an hour was a big, big deal. And in the House of Representatives, when they had their bill with this Rescue America plan, they included it and they passed it as part of the House of Representatives version. But when it went over to the Senate did not include it in their version. And so it wasn't included in the reconciled bill that was sent to the president for signature. Now, that's not to say that the Democratic senators didn't try. Bernie Sanders actually tried to add the $15 an hour minimum wage as an amendment to the bill on the Senate floor. But that request was defeated 58-42, with 8 Democrats actually voting with the Republicans to defeat the amendment. Now, this minimum wage issue is probably not dead. It's probably going to be picked up and debated again by Congress as its own issue and not lumped in with any other type of stimulus package. Well, that is the episode. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button for me. I would appreciate it. If you got a question, I will try to get to it, and I will try to answer it the best I can. If you'd like to learn more, then subscribe to the channel. And if you got friends out there that you think might enjoy this, I love it when you share me on social media. I appreciate you watching today. My name is Joshua Roberts, attorney at law, and you've been watching Lawyer Up.
Send lawyers, guns, and money.